Good evening, folks. It is 8:15 on a Monday night, and here we are live streaming on Facebook. Another session on scanning, SQANNING, which is a simple relaxation technique which I have designed for its simplicity and that uses the system of incremental muscular release to induce a deep state of physical and mental calm. It's just that simple. Again, the system is designed for simplicity. You can learn it in a minute. You can practice it for a minute. You can practice it for an hour, as long as you like. The idea being that it's a tool that's available to use whenever and however you like to bring yourself that sense of calm, that sense of peace and stillness throughout your day and into your life. So that's it. So I'm trying to do 3 sessions a day. As it's kind of working out to be 2 sessions for various reasons. I did not sneak one in this afternoon. I did do one this morning. Hopefully you were there, enjoyed it. If you were, welcome back. Glad to have you. So here it is in the evening, and we're going to try another. I'm going to talk a little bit about the technique, and then we're going to just jump right in. I devised this technique, and I say I devised it, but all it is basically appropriated from all different types of systems and ideas which I've studied over the years, because I wanted a technique by which I could relax, I could find calm in any given situation, anytime, anywhere, in work, in life. And I didn't want to feel as though I had to look outside of myself to achieve that calm. I didn't want to have to call my therapist. I didn't want to have to call my chiropractor. I didn't want to have to drink some sort of substance or consume some sort of substance that would calm me. I wanted a healthy alternative to external solutions that came from me. Because I found that when I was dependent upon various external forces, and they're all valid, but when I found myself too dependent on them, I found it made me anxious. Because if I started to feel uncomfortable or tense or unsettled, I found myself thinking, I've got to get to the chiropractor. I've got to get to the therapist. I've got to get myself a beer. I've got to go smoke a joint. I've got to get to something outside of me. And that made me anxious because those things weren't always available. So I wanted to devise a system that was self-induced, simple to use, didn't require that I read a book of any particular kind, that I watch a video of any sort, that I could just initiate this on my own. So that was the origins of it. And it's based on the simple proposition that the universe basically has 2 phenomena on which everything is based: contraction and expansion. Contraction and expansion. And I'm kind of shortcutting this to get to the point, because these evening sessions, I just really want as much time as possible to practice the technique and not talk about it so much. There'll be other sessions, as I did this morning, where I'll talk about the origins of those ideas. In particular, a gentleman named Thaddeus Golas, who wrote a book called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment. If you have a chance to pick up that book, all of these ideas are somewhat based on those concepts. But again, the universe has basically 2 functions. Everything is either contracting or expanding. So, if you extend those ideas into our human existence, into our well-being, you can apply that as well. And you can look at yourself under any given circumstance and say, on the spectrum of contraction to expansion, because we're not trying to get rid of one or the other, we're trying to have a balance in our life. Where are you on that spectrum? How contracted are you? How expanded are you? Expansion being release, relaxation, openness. Contraction being structures, tension, contraction, along those lines. And I think you can pretty much instinctively figure that out. If you just assess yourself, if you take a moment to say, where am I at? You'll say, well, I'm either really contracted, or I'm feeling pretty expanded, or I'm somewhere in between. So this technique was devised to move us towards expansion, because in life we generally tend to put our energies into contractions. We study things, we practice our profession, we write, we use words, concepts, we develop arguments in our minds so that we can win arguments with people. Sometimes we lose, we get into relationships. These are all contractions. These are all the bringing together of concepts, ideas, and materials to form the stuff of life. That's totally valid. The only problem is when we're too far into contraction, we become imploded. we become completely contracted. And as you know, with two completely imploded, contracted beings, they're impermeable. So you become inflexible, you become rigid. But when you expand, you become permeable, and you can meld and join with others. You're open, you're flexible, you're more aware. So we're trying to move with this process I call scanning from a state of contraction to a state of expansion, to a state of release. So what is the perfect physical metaphor for that contrast? The muscles. Muscles can either contract or release. Only two things. Muscles can either contract or release. So if we begin to work on the muscles in a very incremental way, and I call this the incremental release of muscular tension, we can move ourselves from a state of contraction to a state of expansion or release, very simply. So let's start. We're going to use the hands as a metaphor for the entire body. I'm going to ask you to do certain things with your hands, but as we're doing those things, I want you to allow your body in sympathy to respond to those sensations that these steps create. So if we begin to feel more expanded and released in our hands, I want you to allow that feeling of expansion and release to flow into the rest of your body. So gently clasp your hands together, and this is the technique, very simple. Step one, clasp your hands together, and on my count, you're going to completely release that tension. But before you do that, I want you to pay very close attention to what it feels like to contract those muscles. What is that experience? Pay close attention, because in a moment, you're going to completely relax and let that sensation wash over your body. 3, 2, 1, release. Take a deep breath. Now we're using the action of expansion to create the sensation of release. But the most important part of this technique is not the action itself, but your awareness of the sensation. 90% of this technique is about building an awareness in your body of the difference between contraction and expansion, because we forget what expansion feels like. We spend most of our days contracting, efforting, constructing ideas, thoughts, words, building structures, building relationships, working. We're familiar with that feeling. But having gone too far in that direction, we find ourselves tied in knots. So now, what we're trying to do is build an awareness of the opposite sensation, which is release. So let's do it again. Pay very close attention to how it feels. Clasping your hands together. Pay attention to how that feels. 3, 2, 1, release. And let that sensation of release pass through your entire body. Take a deep breath. Exhale. Now 15 seconds. I just want you to pay very close attention to the change that just occurred in your body. Take a deep breath. So you've just learned the 3 steps of scanning. SQANNING, the incremental release of muscular tension for the purpose of achieving a deep state of physical and mental calm. Step 1, clasp and then release. Let that sensation wash through your body. Step 2, your body will send you an impulse to take a deep breath. That's because the body is now aware that you're relaxing. So it's safe and it's time to take a breath. Take that breath. That's step 2. Release. Step 3, observe. Sit in silence and stillness and study these new sensations. Reinforce, re-educate yourself as to what it feels like to be in a state of release, relaxation. Take a deep breath. Now, why practice this technique? If we're only releasing an incremental amount of tension, and that's all we're doing, gently releasing incremental amount of tension, and incremental implying that it's progressive. We just keep adding. Why do it? Number 1, it feels good. Number 2, you're making a muscle memory. You're strengthening your awareness of this state, this altered state, the one that's opposite of what you do most of the day. You're strengthening your awareness of the state of release. You're familiarizing yourself with it. And just like you learn a song by practicing it, the more you practice that song, the better you know the lyrics, the better you know the melody. So when you need to sing that song, it just becomes that much easier. So that's all we're doing. Reinforcing the sensation of release. And in doing so, relaxing ourselves. Reaffirming for ourselves that that's an important place to be in life if you want balance. Studying our own body, becoming more aware of how it works. Let's try it again. Gently clasping the hands together. Study very carefully what that feels like, to have to hold that tension in your hands. It's not a bad thing. It's just one available option. And on my count, you're going to completely release that tension. 3, 2, 1, release. And let that sensation of release pass through your entire body. When you feel the impulse to breathe, take a deep breath. Exhale. Now study that sensation. Pay very close attention to everything that's going on in every square inch of your body. You're incrementally moving into a sensation, a state of release. But it's important that you pay attention to how that feels so you can revisit it on demand. Now, for example, some of the things I'm feeling, because I'm going through this with you at the same time, I'm suddenly aware of the beating of my heart. I'm suddenly aware of a throbbing, a pulsing of sorts of my blood as it more freely passes through my body and into my limbs and into my feet and into my hands, my head. I'm breathing more freely. My lungs are opening up. And I'm also feeling a greater comfort in sitting in stillness. Whereas when I started, I might have felt more antsy, and now I'm starting to feel as though it's just fine just to sit here quietly. Those are the changes I'm studying. 15 seconds. Take a deep breath. Now you may notice a change in me. I always notice that from the time the session starts to midpoint in the session to the end of the session, I speak more slowly. I start taking longer and longer pauses. There's a certain stillness that comes over my body. You may be experiencing the same things. I'm just telling you what I'm observing for myself. And again, the practice of scanning is 90% observation. You want to study the changes in your body. Familiarize yourself with what it's like to relax, to release. Experience not only the joy of it, how good it feels, but experience the awareness that you're now developing, the sense of a new you that you haven't necessarily been in touch with for the entire day. So you're coming back in a way to yourself. Let's do it again. Clasp your hands together. Pay close attention to what it feels like. That muscular contraction on my count. You're going to completely release, and you're going to let that sensation boomerang through your entire body, down to the tips of your toes and the top of your head. Ready? 3, 2, 1, release. Deep breath. Completely still for 30 seconds this time. And study and pay very close attention to everything you're feeling in your body. The sensation of your beating heart, the pulsing of your blood, the feelings in your limbs and muscles as you begin to relax. Deep breath. You know, if you were like me when you were young, God forbid, my my parents could never get me to sit still. And they used to say, if I could just get you to sit still for 30 seconds, if you could just sit still for 30 seconds, and I just couldn't do it. So it's not in my nature to sit still. But through the practice of scanning, I've begun to see the benefits. Because when you can get to a still, quiet place and really settle into the moment, what you begin to realize that none of the pressing matters that were driving you into such a state of hyperactivity were really that essential in the moment. You can let so much go. So many thoughts, so many worries, so many activities, so much physical tension, and you'll be just fine. The danger for some people is that when they finally stop moving, they actually have to start feeling themselves. And a lot of people don't like what comes up when they're left to their own feelings. But you got to trust, if you let your body just be, those feelings will be fine. And then you'll have this feeling of contentment and peace because you realize there's no place I have to be right now. There's nothing I have to think about. There's no task I need to accomplish in these next whatever 5 minutes. I can just be. And that's very comforting. So let's try it again. And on this next pass, I'm going to extend this practice into a little more detail, more in line with the way I actually practice it. I've been doing it for years, and there's a little bit more of a detailed approach which you can take once you get the basic concept. So squeeze your hands together, and on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, release. Let that sense of release springboard through your body. Take a deep breath. Now 30 seconds, just study those sensations. Those sensations of release. How are they changing your body? What's different now? What's different about how you feel now as opposed to how you felt 2 minutes ago? 30 seconds. Deep breath. And just as your body sends you an impulse to take a deep breath and you follow it, so it tells you to exhale, because what the body's also trying to do is transport tension out of itself. So listen to the cues. The body knows what to do. You just have to give it the opportunity. The body instinctively wants to relax. You've been holding it hostage all day with tension. The body needs to and wants to relax. So when it starts sending you cues as if to say, here's what I need. Now that it's time to relax, take a breath, exhale, sit still, and we'll get there together. So now, I want to get into a little bit more detail once you've let go of a certain amount of tension. And again, this is the incremental release of muscular tension, so there's no amount too small. If you've gone from a 10 to a 9.5, you've won. You've succeeded. Because you've not only relaxed yourself, however small that amount may be, but you've reinforced the idea that this process of relaxation is valid, it's important, and it's worth spending time doing. It's good for your well-being. You'll begin to feel that instinctively. You'll begin to feel good when you do it, and you're going to want to do it more. So no amount is too small, because every dime you put in the piggy bank counts. It starts to add up, and it pays big dividends. So that process of release, where I said 3, 2, 1, release, that applies to any part of your body. So what I want to do now is I'm going to take us what I call through the 8 physical zones of tension, and we're going to do a release in each of those sections. And again, it's cumulative. These are incremental releases, and each part I'm going to describe, but it all adds up till eventually there's a tidal wave of release coming over your body, and your body just lets go completely, just relaxes. It wants to go there. But we're doing it incrementally. And the more specific you get, the more you can focus that release, the more successful you'll be in releasing. So we've done the hands. Now I want you to focus on what I call zone 1, which is the face. I want you to pay attention to however much tension you're experiencing in your face. And you may not even be aware there's tension in your face, but I want you to focus now and think, is there tension in my face? Am I holding it in any way? And now my count, I want you to register where you're at, and then I want you to incrementally release the tiniest amount of that tension. 3, 2, 1 from the face, release. Take a breath. You might have felt your mouth fall open as your jaw relaxed. You might have felt your eyes just suddenly, we hold a lot of tension in our eyes, your cheeks. But just be aware of that small amount of tension you just released. Let's do it again. Pay close attention to how your face feels. 3, 2, 1, tiny release. Tiny. And feel how that sense of release in your face perhaps radiates all the way down into your chest, your pelvis, your legs. Every part of the body is listening to what's going on in the other parts of the body at all times. The body is a unit. If there's tension in one part of your body, I guarantee you other parts of your body will get tense. The body likes to act in concert. It likes to be unified. So if you create a sense of release in your body, the body will follow suit everywhere. Zone 2, top of the head. See if you can detect what amount, if any, of tension you're holding in your skull. And on my count, you're going to incrementally release the tiniest amount of that tension. 3, feel it. 2, 1, here we go, release. Now you've released the muscles of the face and the top of the head. One more time, top of the head. 3, 2, 1, release. You may feel that release in your forehead, your ears. Take a breath. So moving through the body, zone 3 is the back of the head. Using your heightened sense of awareness, see if you can become aware of what kind of tension you're holding in the back of your head. And on my count, release it. 3, 2, 1, release. Now you've done the entire skull. Your face, the top of your head, the back of your head. So let's just do the whole skull. Concentrate on whatever tension you detect. 3, 2, 1, tiny bit, release. Tiniest amount of release. And you'll begin to feel now, like you're melting butter. You'll begin to feel that sense of release ooze into other parts of your body. 1, 2, 3. 4 is the neck. Take a moment to detect whatever tension you feel in your neck. On my count, you're going to release the tiniest amount of that tension. 3, 2, 1, release. One more time. The neck. 3, 2, 1, release. Zone 5, the shoulders. 3, 2, 1, release. Now you can feel your shoulders drop when you do that ever so incrementally, but you feel it. Detect the tension in your shoulders. 3, 2, 1, release. And let that feeling of release spread into the rest of your body. Deep breath. 15 seconds just to register those changes. Deep breath. So now, we've relaxed the face, the top of the head, the back of the head, the neck, the shoulders. This entire portion of your body has been incrementally relaxed. It might not be a lot, but if you think about it, there's a difference going on. Let's move down to zone 5, which is the entire front, your chest and stomach, and down to your waist. 3, 2, paying attention to where it's at, and on 1, we're going to release, release. Again, the chest and stomach and waist. 3, 2, 1, release. Now, moving into your back and down into your pelvis, that entire plane on the back of your body. 3, 2, 1, release. Deep breath. And finally, Zone 8, which is the legs, the lower pelvic region, the legs down into the bottoms of your feet and your toes. 3, 2, 1, release. And now on my count, you're going to put all those units together. I want you to be aware of your entire body. And on the count of 3, I want you to take whatever tension you feel remains in your entire body, and I want you to just let it go. 3, 2, 1, here we go. Release. Gone. Gone. "15 seconds. Deep breath. So all we've done in the past almost half hour, goodness gracious, all we've done is incrementally reduce the tension, the constriction, constriction, and contraction in our body. Incrementally, we've taken it from here to here. If this is the scale of contraction to release, complete contraction, complete release, we've moved the dial. Doesn't matter how much, we've moved the dial. And that's the skill you want to develop. And the way you develop that skill is by practice, but also by, as I said, paying very close attention to the changes that occur in your body when you practice this technique. Paying very close attention to the sensations of release. Studying your body. And finding, miraculously, that you can actually control your state of being. You can take yourself out of contraction and move into tension. You can move into release. You can move into relaxation. You have it within your grasp. It's very simple. Very simple. And that's all I ever wanted to be able to do, was to very simply move myself into a calmer, more centered, more balanced state of being, so that I could more effectively do my job, so that I could more effectively relate to other people, so that I could more effectively maintain my health, and so that I could just feel better. So this technique is based on a very simple process. Distinguishing and being hyper-conscious of the distinction between contraction and expansion in your body. Contraction and expansion. And when you become familiar with the process of expansion, you will have learned to move yourself into that state by incrementally releasing tension in your body. The goal is to just be, to feel still and quiet and calm and at peace and comfortable in your own skin. We all instinctively know what that feels like, regardless of how far away we've drifted from it. All this is a reminder from me to you and to myself that it exists, it's valid, it's important that you go there. It's where you go to recharge. It's what I call home. To recharge, to rejuvenate, to clear your mind, to find peace and calm, so that you can then re-enter the arena with a clearer mind, a more relaxed body, all of which allow you to function better in life and be happier. Because one of the side benefits, in addition to the muscular release, is a state of well-being. When you can just sit in calm stillness without depending on anything, any external phenomenon to make you feel worthy or to make you feel happy, it's very empowering to know that you can just sit anywhere, you can be anywhere, and find peace and inner calm just in that moment of quiet. Because it reminds you what's underneath all that stuff is just you. And you, not to sound corny, are beautiful. You're a beautiful being. We all are. But we judge ourselves based on the external things we've acquired or used, or the labels or our titles, or how much we have in the bank, or how much we've had to drink. We gauge ourselves on that, when in fact, none of those things matter. What's real, what's true, is just your simplest self. Your simplest self, just sitting and breathing and being. So when you can sit like this, it's wonderful. It's a great esteem builder, because you go, I'm just fine, just being. Now I can go out into the world and add all those layers of titles and jobs and money and all that stuff, because I know underneath it all is just me and I'm fine. So that's what this practice brings you to. And all this technique is taking the simplest approach, and that is through the muscles, because the muscles are, I won't say they're dumb, but they're dumb. All they can do is contract and release. They don't think about things. They don't rationalize things. That's why I don't like intellectual approaches to relaxation, because the mind's too crafty. It'll always find a way out. The muscles can be induced very easily. We have control over our muscles to a degree. We put it in a state of tension and then say release, and then use the cues that come from that technique to pass that release through your body, to breathe, to pay attention to what it feels like to release, until we can gently coax and induce the entire body into a deep state of calm. Then you can stop doing all this mumbo jumbo. That's just a trick. A way to trick your body into going where it knows it wants to go, but is afraid to go, because it means dropping everything and just being. I always find it hard to start. I've been doing this for years, literally thousands of hours. Tonight, I did not want to start. But I know enough now from experience to know that if I do, and I pass through the resistance, I'll get to a place where I'll feel so much better than I felt all day watching TV or being on the internet or finding some exotic or super sweet food or drinking some sort of substance or doing any kind of activity that I thought was going to make me feel better. This process makes me feel better than all of them. And it doesn't feel that way when I start. It always feels like I'm dropping everything and I'll be nothing and I'll be exposed and I'll let go of all the things that give me strength. But it's the opposite. It has the opposite effect. When I drop everything is when I really feel complete and confident and at peace. So I'm telling you that just so you know, it's always going to feel hard to start. Always, because you're letting go of all the things you've been holding on to. But by practicing, you will begin to have, as I said, a muscle memory, a sensation memory that tells you what it's like to get to that calm place. And you'll say, it's worth the trip. I'm going to push through and do it. Because I'm that much closer now. I'll be honest with you, I've been watching TV most of the night. We're all very concerned. We're watching the news. I've been watching other things which I thought would make me feel better. None of them did. I was actually getting progressively tenser and by association more fatigued, which is odd because I was just sitting and watching TV. But tension, as you begin to contract through worry, through preparing yourself physically for, action, which is the way we're all feeling right now. We have to be ready for anything. You begin to bind yourself. It's like wearing a tight rope around your body and trying to run a marathon. It exhausts you. And so by letting go, by using this process to let go of your thoughts and your tensions, you actually free your body up to be, and you suddenly have a burst of energy. You can breathe again. Your muscles aren't tense in expectation of having to go to war. Your mind isn't fretting. The muscle that is your brain isn't fretting over things you think you have to prepare for that you really have no control over. You're free to just be. So, I recommend to myself, I can't tell anybody what to do, but I recommend to myself every day that I practice this at least 2-3 times a day, sometimes for 5 minutes, sometimes for an hour, depending. I keep a journal because it encourages me to see how much time I put into it, because I know the more time I put into it, the more accessible this process will be as I train my body, my mind, my spirit, my muscles to go to this place. And that's it. And it can be customized to whatever you feel, but fundamentally, you're incrementally releasing the tension in your muscles, gently, gradually coaxing your body into a state of complete release and calm. And you start with the hands. 3, 2, 1, release. Note how that feels. Let that sensation pass through your body. Take a deep breath. And then study what's going on. And encourage whatever your body's doing in moving towards that state of release. Encourage it. You have the power. Encourage that throbbing sensation in your feet and hands and face. Bring yourself to that place and then just enjoy it. And that is it for tonight. If you came in late to the session, thanks for joining me. I'm sorry you came late. I'm going to be wrapping it up now, but I do repost all these sessions. I might not repost this one because I already posted one from today, which you're welcome to look at, this morning session on my Facebook page. And then I post all the sessions. You can find all the sessions on the Facebook scanning page, SQANNING, anytime. You can go there and watch any or all of the sessions, as well as a YouTube station. I try to do these sessions at 11, 4, and 8, somewhere around there. I usually manage to get in at least 2 of those, somewhat close to the time, not always. And I do try to give a little advance notice so that you can find these sessions if you find them to your liking and advantageous. That said, I wish you all safety and health. Love yourself. Be good to yourself. Find a way to come back to yourself whenever you can. Relax. And we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.